The wind howled across the open plains of Montana as the night settled over the ranch. The lonely rancher, Daniel Hayes, sat by the fire in his small wooden cabin, the crackling flames casting shadows on the worn walls. He had spent another long day tending to the cattle and fixing fences, alone, as always. It had been 3 years since his wife died, and since then, the silence had become both his companion and his curse. That night, as he poured himself a cup of coffee, he heard something unusual, a faint sound carried by the wind. It wasn't the cry of a coyote or the rustle of cattle. It was softer, human. A cry. He set his mug down, grabbed his coat, and stepped out into the cold night. The moonlight illuminated the snow-covered path leading to the barn. The sound grew clearer. Someone was sobbing. Daniel followed it, his boots crunching in the snow, until he reached the side of the barn. There, crouched near the fence, was a young woman, shivering and crying her heart out. "Ma'am," Daniel called gently, not wanting to startle her. "You all right?" The girl gasped, wiping her tears quickly. She looked no older than 20, her clothes thin and torn, her hair messy from the wind. I'm sorry," she stammered. "I didn't mean to trespass. I had nowhere else to go." Daniel could see her breath fogging in the air. "You'll freeze out here," he said firmly. "Come on inside, we'll talk there." She hesitated, clutching a small bundle in her arms, maybe her belongings. But the warmth in his voice convinced her. She followed him inside, and as the door shut behind them, the girl sighed with relief at the sight of the fire. Daniel poured her a cup of warm coffee and placed it on the table. "Name's Daniel Hayes," he said. "This here's my ranch. Who might you be?" "Clara," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Clara Mason," he nodded. "Well, Miss Mason, you look like you've had quite the night." Clara took a sip of the coffee, her hands trembling. "I was traveling with a wagon train," she began. "We stopped near the town for work. I was hired to cook for one of the families. But," her voice broke, "they accused me of stealing. I didn't do it, I swear, but they threw me out before I could explain. I've been walking since noon. I just wanted to find shelter." Daniel's heart ached at her words. He'd known hardship, the kind that breaks a person quietly. "You're safe here," he said simply. "There's an extra cot by the stove. You can stay the night." Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time from gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, Daniel lay awake longer than usual. He could hear Clara's soft breathing by the stove, the firelight flickering across her face. She looked peaceful, but he could see traces of exhaustion and sorrow beneath that calm. He turned to the window, staring at the stars, and for the first time in years, the loneliness didn't feel so heavy. The next morning, the scent of frying bacon woke him up. He sat up and blinked. Clara was at the stove, wearing his old apron, humming softly. The table was already set. "Morning," she said with a shy smile. "I hope you don't mind. I thought I'd make breakfast to thank you." Daniel couldn't help but smile. "Not at all," he replied. "Smells better than anything I've cooked in months." They ate together, and for a while, it almost felt like life had color again. She laughed quietly at his dry humor, and he found himself watching her more than he meant to. Days turned into weeks. Clara stayed, helping around the ranch, cooking, cleaning, even feeding the horses. She had a natural way of bringing life to the quiet homestead. Daniel tried to keep his distance at first. After all, she was young, and he was a man hardened by years of solitude. But every evening when she sang softly by the fire, something in his heart began to thaw. One afternoon, Daniel found her near the barn, trying to lift a heavy bucket of feed. He stepped in quickly, taking it from her hands. "You'll strain yourself," he said. "I can help," she insisted, brushing her hair from her face. "You've done so much already. Let me do my part." He looked at her for a moment, then nodded. "All right, partner, but we do it together." They worked side by side, laughter and soft talk filling the air. The ranch no longer felt empty. But one evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, a man rode up, rough-looking, wearing a brown hat and a mean grin. "Looking for a girl," he said, dismounting. "Name's Clara Mason. Ran off from the cook camp near town. Boss wants her back." Daniel's jaw tightened. "What for?" Said she took money from the till. Clara stepped out of the barn just then, her face pale. "That's not true," she cried. "They're lying." The man smirked. "You calling my boss a liar, girl?" Daniel stepped between them, his hand resting on his revolver. "You best get back on your horse," he said evenly. The lady's under my care. If she's done something wrong, the sheriff can handle it. The man glared but saw the steel in Daniel's eyes and thought better of it. He spat on the ground, muttered a curse, and rode off. When the dust settled, Clara's knees gave out. Daniel caught her just in time. She clung to him, trembling. You shouldn't have done that, she whispered. Now they'll come for you too. He looked down at her, his rough voice softening. Let them, no one's taking you from here. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked up at him. Why, she asked, why do you care so much? He hesitated, then brushed a strand of hair from her face. Because I know what it's like to have no one stand up for you, he said quietly. And because you've brought life back to this place, to me. That night, as the fire burned low, Clara sat beside him, silent but peaceful. She rested her head on his shoulder, and he didn't pull away. Weeks passed, and spring came to the ranch. The wildflowers bloomed, the air grew warm, and laughter became a daily sound in Daniel's home. Clara's cooking filled the cabin with sweet aromas, and her gentle presence healed wounds he thought would never close. One evening, as the sun painted the sky gold, Daniel stood by the porch, watching the horizon. Clara joined him, her hands clasped in front of her apron. I've been thinking, she said softly. Maybe I should head to town soon, find proper work. Daniel turned to her, his heart tightening. You could, he said slowly. Or you could stay. Make this your home, if you want it. Her eyes widened, and for a moment she couldn't speak. Then, with tears glimmering, she whispered, Are you sure? He smiled, a rare, genuine smile that reached his eyes. I haven't been sure of much in my life, Clara. But of this, I am. She stepped closer, took his hand, and whispered, Then I'll stay. And as the sun set behind them, painting the land in warmth and light, the lonely rancher was lonely no more.